Greetings to you, dear friends. My name is still Sergey Puzanov, which means we're on another faggot fishing trip. I think you understand the kuophone from the back entourage. What am I? On Donetsk Street, Mariano District, Moscow River, of course, this is one of ours. Super cool formats because our winter feeder does not stop. And now the first frosts are coming to Moscow, beginning of December. Although the temperature all this time remained around 0 + 1, there's 0 something like that, and right now, literally, today just at night. The weather forecasters ride the weather as usual. We feel beautiful when it's -4 outside, and it feels like 10. These are these incomprehensible formulations, but nevertheless. Today we will try to catch some fish. Literally 3 were thrown into the water 4 days ago. Most likely the fish has not yet adapted. Because it's a classic of the Moskvoretsky format, this is after the water has been drained. We have to wait at least a week and a half after the fish finds its specific points. Then we check them, and then we constantly visit these points under the love well. Different size roach, bream, and so on. Today we came specifically to one of these locations. Not so far. There is a reset. It is warm. In theory, all the fish should have concentrated here, because this is the first hole on the way, if you go upstream. Today we will discuss all these points. Let's see what we can catch. No. But nevertheless, as always, the winter feeder begins with this, which I remind you once again. What things do we absolutely need to take with us? Today is just the main thing is that he has been traveling with me for 2 weeks now. Finally useful today. This is Johnson's baby oil. Because our cords, at any negative temperature it is -3 to 2. Well, -2 is still more or less bearable, and here is -3, and as they say below, there is -7, and so on. Without him, you can do without it, but this is a very dangerous thing for the cord, frequent shootings and so on, so be sure to treat the cords in any way. I did it today directly on the pond. And we fill it all up at home so that the cord is properly soaked on dry so that it absorbs never it is wet, and the oil can no longer stick to it normally and get in. As it says in the structure. That's why we always process everything at home in advance. Well, let's go make peace. According to the measurements, the situation is as follows. Classic format. The current is quite strong today, because the water was released, but it's not completely clear yet, because the remaining ones are probably about half a meter off. Water is gradually released over the next 1.5 hours, probably at least weeks. So we can say that it is winter, but not quite winter yet. Quite high for winter level. But literally, as I said, half a meter remains. The current is strong today. Using the example of a load of 80 grams, the structure has changed a lot somehow, because literally for another 3 weeks I set up there. I caught it, it was all water. The structure has changed a lot somehow, most likely because the jet is working. Some run somewhere was washed out more strongly, somewhere on the contrary it got blurred. Found a small transition from silt to such permanent stones. Then the stones run out, and some kind of a mix together. With a small shell, we simply run into a stone wall, which just begins. Climb in our direction, and somewhere 10 to 15 meters. This is the logical slope down to this wall. Then reset again. In essence, it is a channel ditch, because the stream is on the right. It's blowing in warm altogether at somewhere maybe kilometers away. A kilometer can be maximum by water if measured. That is the main warm stream for fish. This is the most important nuance, is located in the center. That is, there is more or less water here. It will cool down quite quickly, and there this stream is constantly heated up, as I think that the fish will definitely stand right in the stream itself. The depth at the point is about 6 meters, I guess. Maybe 5 with Copex is the best option. That is, to climb some holes, in the winter. How is that? You can watch it in some old videos. Many people say that you have to go there, some kind of wintering pits there, despite some laws, prohibitions, and so on. No, this conversation will be closer, I don't know, there in the dead of winter there. End of January, February. That's what's going on here in that spirit. At the beginning of winter, the fish still stay their usual depths of some 4. 5 is the most optimal solution. That's why this location is extremely interesting. And in the example, there were already some impulses. I hope everything works out for us. because the fish is still not in its most active phase. Although the further winter goes, the less chance that in this phase there will be. But I will still remind you that this is the Moscow River. There are rules here. It all depends on the various discharges there and so on. The bait is as fine-grained as possible. This is 2 packs of capricious cool, that's what it's called, because in his faction and in its aroma everything is reduced to almost a minimum. And 1 pack of black. I added a nutty shade to the bream. Who never did worse? Although the content of this nut there is practically minimal, probably all this is exported more on aromatics, well, suddenly some more serious bream will swim up, and in the capricious beak there's nothing much to eat. There won't be, but here at least 1 kilogram. Well, he'll drown in these too. There will at least be something worthwhile there, by live component. No pampering about something like that. Hellish charges of maggots there and so on can be forgotten. In the first months, that's for sure. Everything will be in detail, carefully on a small moth. Even most likely on cutting this small bloodworm. And only after the fish comes, we will already be working by volume to increase. What is the increase? Or we will simply add small bloodworms, stirring vigorously in the feed to get the fish stuck at the spot. So to speak, hold row you came unstuck, or we'll see if the roach bites. Which is most often encountered here. We will try to switch to the parere system, because even in the fiercest of times there are super frosty days, and in December, in January, competitions were held here at one time, and the steam feed worked very well. It's still a roach. What if there are already some breams living here? Who occupied this hole faster? We don't know yet. All it's worked purely in modal F filing, but the fact itself is a living component. In such cold weather, we work carefully. We won't put anything there in detail right away, because we can stay. For the first couple of hours there are no fish at all, until they have eaten their fill there. If there is a good amount of it here, then accordingly we will already work on her and by bites. That is, until she gives us a signal, in what quantity and how much of it is present there. We will not add anything to the pure feed. I didn't add any flavoring to the composition, because it would be better to pour it separately, and it will be possible to understand just how much. She is afraid of such bright aroma signals, or vice versa, pour more. The bite will be better. So in fact we will now. Everything is on its way. In this analysis, after feeding, this is already the second bite. 1 fish in Seca, and the second one has already come unstuck before your eyes. Enough, unexpectedly friends, at 1 o'clock. The first bite was on a bunch of bloodworms. The second one is already a maggot. Since the bloodworm was cut, it apparently didn't react much. Cut off the guy. I saw what the reaction was. There is a maggot-shaped nozzle on the nozzle. Cut. And I'll tell you honestly, everything sparkled. That is, you can see these, a la European. Winters that came. Our region has started bringing in fish in a different way. Here are all these little details, neat little approaches. There is 1 moth. Knock on wood, I'm afraid of jinxing it. But it bites on maggots, I'll tell you, even a 3. Now I've increased the hook because the implementation has been successful, because the hook was 18th there, and 3 mods, and simply turned into maggots. And I'll even say that with the help of maggots there is always roach on the Moscow River. Well, it just increases in size instantly, because all this bloodworm is roach, the so-called Chinese. And here are some really good loaves. What a feeding trough. 80 grams, so you understand at this distance there are 30 plus meters. But that's worth it. It just rushes. And the most important thing is, even on a fast rental car like this, until the bite happens, That is, the roach is really in some kind of active phase, judging by the maggot and how well it bites on the rental. By the way, about the rental, watch the previous series. That winter, I was just telling you about this interesting fishing at the rental. Here again, the feeder rolled hit. Well, sometimes such a situation happens. That is, you are not constantly catching the current, and the flow is regulated. That is, it blows, then bam, and that's it, and the stick stands practically straight, and now the current stops. The bites are just great. The numbers start to differ dramatically for the worse. So the current for roach is forever. Trimmed maggot. A neat trail gives calls new fish to the point. If it's not there and it's like this for the first hour, everything is fine. And most importantly, that I almost immediately guessed the starting leash, although there is nothing to guess about here. With such a stream definitely 20 meters forward, and now the meter 20 is being shortened, there is no point. The fish has a hook here, all in the oral cavity so far like this first hour. Interesting for one simple reason, that he was counting on a more capricious bite, or maybe because the bait is fine-grained. It bites well, and on the other hand, it is not afraid to cut maggots. Well, cool. That's all for now, but how it is unsaid. First hour, everything is fine, and then 4 damn tears. And snot, by the way, be sure to dress properly. Don't forget gloves. Buff is a cool thing. The wind rises. My cheeks start to freeze. Then you can remove the skin in strips, so it is necessary to wear buffs. Don't forget gloves. And hot tea. Another cool moment, it's just that you don't bring out your sister's fish yet. It feels like there's just a bream going there. Then you cut out more or less something like this from the stream. No, it's not like you start spinning it like that. It doesn't seem to be very big, but in fact it's a roach. Here, right under the shore, it starts to rush about. They just cut such circles. Oh, this is very good. Well, some people go for roach like that. Distant, fierce regions. Finally, at least in winter, catch some roach. Look how elegant this 300 is. 350 probably, there is a super roach for sure. And while the fishing is good, knock on wood, let's move on. Well, what is our witchcraft? Stopped. Everything was biting normally until some point. In this moment, there was some kind of oversaturation, or someone sailed in, and a bream swam up. The bastard came unstuck right next to the shore. Well, this means that either he moved the roach or she went somewhere, and the bream gives it carefully, almost at some 5th or 6th minute of waiting. But nothing serious happened. Made a decor in the form of 3 feeders with cutting. Of course, I added my favorite aroma for the roach. Where without it sport forever, roach and sport working scheme. I think the regular viewer already knows. Well, the roach is back, but again, she is fiercely capricious. Right now, 3 or 4 fish were caught just on. Bunch of bloodworms hook I increased. This is Celerovich in size 12. But the implementation has improved tremendously. But now it seems like this hook is too big for working with bloodworms. But literally on a bloodworm. Third cast, the fish stop responding. You put on 2 supports, you go goodbye. You wear white and red, hooray, hooray. Caught 1 fish, there's a pause again. 2 throws to nowhere. Now I'm finding the biggest support. In a single version, the fish responds well, 3 more caught, and the most important thing is that it's just a smart-looking roach. Of course, I haven't seen anything like this for a long time. Well, the current has literally just started to calve. You make the second cast, everything went straight to the ground and practically in a straight line. The line goes plumb, and everything at once on a bite. Oh, here we go again. The main thing is that it started, and the tension of the top is none. Well, that's the situation, which is basically how you fish on a river. This is Moscow in the river, and there are areas where there is practically no current at all. There are areas where the run is exactly 120 grams and so on. Well, and definitely a nuance, guys. These are of course forms for the winter. I will remind you once again, although the season is only starting now with the winter feeder, these are of course rings who. Watch the review. I compared 2 forms, just Oscilla and VE2. I clearly understand that it was necessary to decompose VE2, because now I've settled down, with such -4. The tulip is simply packed to the brim with ice, with some water that freezes right away. And these little rings, just well, on such a thin one that I think the top today. Great chance to fold, because you pull it carefully when it gets stuck. And it seems to be fine, but what the hell happened at that moment? Certainly, in winter fedora the theme with such rings is not relevant, or move to forms of such normal growth 4. And 2, there will of course be bigger rings in Kaveri, but I think I'll jump to 2. And everything will be fine. This is a ride in 2 series elegance. The cord is the standard that I have been using for 8 years. I filled it with Johnson's Baby and there are no questions about it at all. I said the feeder is 80. I don't have anything heavier with me. Well, and in fact, if you catch roach, rolling is more of a plus than a minus. I think I'll probably do some more magic. I'll watch something interesting new. I tried shortening the leash length, but it only got worse. I think these are our standard Moscow quirks. When the leashes reach a meter, 80 is easy. You can even lengthen it further. Well, and the most important thing is that it's sharp. I remove the sponge, and it gradually fades away. The dot goes out, the dot goes out. Just getting into the rhythm. 2 minutes later, everything started to shine again. Well, so you understand, the day before yesterday fishing was in another location much lower. Suddenly the doe just knocks you out. Point to hell, that is, there is not a large amount of fish. She is very capricious. She's still walking around in some kind of shock. Arrives. After the descent in here, please. The fish is doing well. A warm stream still gives her some energy and so on. Well, as their theologians assure us, fish always and everywhere. Either oxygen is needed, or warm water, and if it is in the same place. The divine fish is always there. While it is there, while she pecks the foot phone, I hope the catch will be good, because the size of the roach, super cool. So guys, are the fish biting? Of course he's capricious, but he bites. The frost has become a little softer. Or the sun warms up. But nevertheless, it's right to dress like a seasoned winter boots. This definitely needs to be done. How she shows off, oh my. Never show off like that in the summer. Brother. Well, that speaks of her good condition. This is probably the smallest of those that have already been caught. This is the standard. Again, 1 maggot. And everything is fine. The extract is frozen. In fact, the fish bites in practically All the time, yes, it's Roach. Yes, we definitely need to do some magic. Add something, remove something. In fact, there was no supernatural format there. Just stops biting, oh well. Holy shit, how is that possible? Where did I get another hook from? Wow. Here's my hook with maggot. And here's my hook, which was torn off from me before. Ha ha ha. Oh well, I brought some Roach. With his own hook. I had a couple of breaks there. I thought it was just there. Afraid yes, this is my hook. Hee here is Silverovich. It means the fish is normal even after it's there. I cracked and it doesn't float away from there. Well, that's about how much of it there is there. It's right there in quantity. Of course, it doesn't bite at some kind of furious pace, a la their minute. Or 30-40 seconds. Well, there are about 2 bites, maybe 2 30 minutes. Such a pace as it were. Normal winter, I would say. That is, there won't be any kind of summer format there. Well, I think so. I caught some good fish. Now, according to the standard, it starts. Some kind of topic. This is dirty. Carried away the garbage. And it feels like it's like, well, the water probably dropped another 10 centimeters. Perhaps the overflows are still ongoing. Water between tiers. But despite all these frosts, there was no desire to go because the forecast is until January. Just awesome. For week 1, 2 days maximum, this is frost type 4. 5, then again 0 + 1, 0 + 1, and so on. So what kind of underground setting is this? For fans and stats. In the beautiful nature to catch beautiful fish, sorry. No, the fish is beautiful, elegant fish, but the surroundings will be like this. Well, I think the reconnaissance took place. She is positive. By the way, the fish are elegant in winter and they bite much smaller. And I remember last year, this is a fish there for 1 moth, there is an 18th hook. While everything is in the active phase, that's the feeling. Look at the bends, they are so tight. That probably happened back in its time. I haven't caught anything more accurate in a long time. On such a powerful stream. And in due time, the year before last, I think, there was a current here. They couldn't stop there at almost 120, so these are regulated reservoirs. They help us, Moskvoretsky and Moscow athletes, to gain experience. Adapt to these conditions. And as they say, to catch some fish. Bam, slid down my again. In fact, everything is standard. Nothing super perfect happened. The Roach just came. I immediately poured sport. There are more contacts. Here it is, the cut. I also dripped a little bit of aroma sport into it. It really helps. By the way, not sharply, but the concentrate helps to not freeze sharply. It's probably -5 to 6 there now. It got a little warmer. You can't feel it in the sun. The sun goes down right here and your hands will fall off instantly, and it helps the aroma not to freeze abruptly, and it turns out quite thin. Because if there is no time for a respar, I already made one such format. Here it is lying with me. Such a brutal undercut. Here are some clothes of this normally pressed aparic. I did this once and turned myself off really quickly for 30 to 40 minutes. That's why only really thin water. Super, everything is finished. No living in hole, only on the nozzle. And in this format with a leash of 20 meters hook, I already said. Leash 09, everything is fine. Waved it off, as they say, on your working day. And it's already closer to lunchtime. I think I'll finish. Because I want to go and check a couple more points. See what's up with the water, with approaches, with entrances, and so on. Because of that you watched a new location in the next episodes. New fishing, let's watch. What did you manage to catch? Guys, this is some kind of another nightmare. Fishing from the format, yes it bites. Yes, everything seems to be stable. Yes, everything seems to be smooth. Well, there are some strange pauses. I tried to add some flavoring again. I picked up the nozzle. I tried different cutting methods. Then you take out the fish tank at the end and blow. Fuck. When did you manage to do this? Ha 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 ha. Well, after sitting for 430 hours. When I said I'll go and have a look anyway. What did you manage to catch? Another exit of some kind. The series is just a minute and a half of fish. Fish, fish, fish. And just look at this size. This is just some new Marian standard. At one time when all of these fish were called Mariansky loaves. It looks like the name is coming back again. And as always, a like from you is a must. Repost for friends, colleagues. And most importantly, go feeder fishing more often, because it's winter. Doesn't force you to go out on the ice. You can fish successfully. This is the amount of fish in open water to everyone while you were with Puzian and Sergey. And as always, bring the fish home.